It is always very difficult to follow Senator Torricelli, and I just want to thank him for his impassioned plea, which is a very simple plea to do to the White House, to our President, to the Prime Minister. You gathered today in probably one of the most significant symbols of democracy the world knows, the White House. The place that the President of the United States resides and works. The White House. Every 4 years we select a leader to protect and defend not only our interests, our freedoms, and our democracy, but to promote those values around the world. And today they meet, quite obviously, many items to be discussed. I hope the President reminds Prime Minister Mالكي that we lost 4,400 plus men and women in Iraq. Who knows what their future would have been in the United States? They would have been fathers and mothers, scientists, laborers, technicians, engineers, but they sacrificed their future so that the people of Iraq could have a different and a better future. I hope the President reminds Prime Minister Mالكي that Americans, 300 million strong, have participated in contributing hundreds of billions of dollars so that Iraq could have a different future, a better future. I hope President Obama reminds the Prime Minister that there's not only a debt of obligation to the United States, its citizens, its soldiers, but there's a responsibility to do the right thing. I hope my President reminds the Prime Minister that at the end of the day, the honor of two leaders, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Iraq, are at issue and are in question. As Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, I wrote and discussed and contemplated what my country, my Constitution, and my Bill of Rights meant to me. Never ever did I ever consider a time when I would be in front of the White House asking my President to do the right thing, to delist the MEK, to insist that the Mالكي government extend the deadline, to ensure the protection of the 3,400 residents of Camp Ashraf, either through goo helmets and with the support of the United States. It's a symbol of democracy and freedom that we stand before today. And I say to the men involved in this discussion, either ongoing, either later today or perhaps over the next several days, time is running out to do the right thing. I spent a great deal of time over the past several months talking to mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers of the men and women in Camp Ashraf. It's painfully obvious to me that the misinformation that the Iranian government has spread around the United States of America about the MEK obviously has some effect, because as of today, the State Department nor the White House has done the right thing by delisting the MEK. By the way, Prime Minister Mالكي yesterday apparently said to the Wall Street Journal during an interview that the MEK is an annoyance to Iran. An annoyance to Iran. The single greatest terrorist organization in the world is Iran. The MEK is not a terrorist organization, as the world understands, as the world knows. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the discussions going on in the White House, hopefully the discussions over the next 19 days, If you distill it down to one word, it is trust. Whom should the people of Camp Ashraf trust? Who should the White House trust? Let's revisit history ever so briefly, because there are so many other speakers that will revisit and review it with you. Remember, this was an armed camp. This is a group of men and women that had artillery pieces and anti-aircraft pieces, and they had tanks, and they had small arms fire. They were in a position to defend themselves, as they had had to do for many years previously. And because they trusted the United States of America, they trusted our promise to provide protection and safety, they trusted our word, they surrendered the ability to protect themselves. They trusted the United States of America 7-8 years ago. And in spite of that trust, and in spite of the European Union, the United Kingdom, in spite of a court here in the United States, right here in Washington, D.C., to say that you and the State Department are ignoring the law, you have not demonstrated to us in any manner, shape, or form that this is a terrorist organization, it remains on the list. Well, let me tell you what I think about the State Department, ladies and gentlemen. Their inaction is indefensible. It's unspeakable. They are feckless, gutless, arrogant, and naive to trust Iran. And to think somehow that they are the annoyance, as characterized by Prime Minister Maliky, that they are such an annoyance to the government of Iran that we need to maintain them on the list. It's very difficult to explain to those mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers who have loved ones in Camp Ashraf, and it's even more difficult to explain to those who have lost their loved ones in Camp Ashraf. Who do we trust? Do you trust Ahmadinejad? Do you trust the mullahs? Is there any reason to trust Maliky? So, Mr. President, who do you trust? It's a matter of our honor, Mr. President. We gave them our word. Our word is our bond. It's about our integrity. It's about our honor. It's America's standing in the world. When we normally say something, we mean it. And if we meant what we said, then we will do everything we can starting today to ensure the protection and safety of these defenseless men and women who have been attacked twice. And oh, by the way, Mr. President, with Humvees that Americans provided, with firearms that Americans provided, there was a Persian Spring, Mr. President, but you seem to have ignored it. Well, time is running out. The reality that this camp we closed at the end of this month, we know what it is a precursor to. It's been 2 attacks in 2009 and 2011, innocent deaths. Justification is because they're a terrorist organization. So I conclude my remarks, Mr. President, by asking, beseeching, begging. We elect someone every 4 years to make tough decisions for this country. Not only protect our interests, but to promote our values. One of those values means that we stand with men and women who support democracy, freedom, religious tolerance, who embrace the values that are shared by this country and so many in the Western world. We promote their values, we promote our own. We ignore those values, we ignore our own. Mr. President, now as a private citizen, proudly associated with literally dozens and dozens of men and women on both sides of the political aisle, diplomats, legislators, religious leaders, military leaders, we ask you to make good on our promise, honor our word, protect the men and women of Camp Ashraf, insist that the UN High Commissioner be given the opportunity to do his job, Let these people be freed. Let them be resettled. It's our word, Mr. President. It's our word, Mr. President. Our word must be our bond. I encourage you, Mr. President, to make good on our promise. Thank you.